What the Study Says.
Welcome back to What the Study Says. I'm Dr. May.
And I'm Dr. Kai.
And today we are jumping straight into, well, a pretty massive scandal from an April 2026 article in the NEJM.
Yeah, the New England Journal of Medicine.
Yeah.
The absolute gold standard for medical literature.
Right. So there is this piece submitted by authors from Beijing, China, and it's titled Bronchial Casts from Inhalation of Forest Fire Smoke.
And the wild thing here is the image they submitted was so perfectly polished that it sailed right past the editorial board.
Oh, completely fooled them.
Exactly. But it's actually so fundamentally flawed that the entire scientific world is just mocking it right now.
It really is amazing it got published at all, especially considering the clinical case itself is, it's actually a masterclass in emergency medicine.
It really is. I mean, to set the stage, we are talking about an 87-year-old man who inhaled really thick forest fire smoke.
Right, a very severe case.
Yeah. So he arrives at the hospital, and his oxygen saturation is just plummeted down to 85%.
Oh.
And his condition deteriorates so fast that he ends up needing mechanical ventilation.
And then the medical team actually had to use a cryoprobe, right? Like they literally froze these solid black casts of smoke debris inside his airways just to pull them out.
Yeah, it's a remarkable procedure. And the patient actually recovers.
Which is incredible.
It is. So to document all of this, the authors provided this incredibly striking image of the extracted casts laid out on a pristine white surface.
Right, and they look like these dark branching pieces of coral. It really is a beautiful, perfectly composed image.
Yeah, very striking.
But, and here is where things get really weird, if you look at the ruler placed at the very top of the image, which is obviously meant to show scale, you have to ask, what exactly is happening with those numbers?
They aren't numbers at all, really.
I mean, I have to play devil's advocate here for a second. Are we absolutely sure this isn't just some, highly stylized foreign ruler? Or maybe a weird artifact from image compression? Like, what proves this is AI?
Well, it's a fair question, but if you actually zoom in on that ruler, the symbols are literally melting into each other.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
It has these little pink tick marks that sort of roughly resemble digits, but the sequence itself is just complete gibberish. It is a classic AI hallucination.
But I mean, if you've used an AI image generator recently, you know they can render like photorealistic lighting completely effortlessly. So why do they completely fail at a basic ruler?
It really comes down to how generative AI, like diffusion models, actually works. These models don't really understand math or language.
Right, they aren't calculating anything.
Exactly. They just predict visual patterns and textures based on their training data. So the AI knows a ruler looks like a stick with lines and squiggles, and it recreates that general texture.
Which looks perfectly convincing from a quick glance.
Right, but the moment you try to actually read the symbols, the illusion completely falls apart.
Which brings us to the really terrifying part of this whole thing.
Yes.
Because if the ruler at the top of the image is hallucinated by AI, what about the primary subject? I mean, are the bronchial casts themselves modified? Are they entirely fabricated?
That is the core issue here.
Yeah.
And it points to a massive systemic failure.
Yeah, because the real story isn't just that AI can generate fake images. I mean, everyone knows that in 2026.
Oh, absolutely. That's old news. The real issue is that the NEJM peer review process suffered a complete breakdown.
They just dropped the ball.
Totally. The reviewers, they expected a pristine clinical image. They saw something that matched that expectation, and they simply didn't bother to zoom in.
It's the illusion of competence. It's like, imagine hiring a brilliant portrait painter to draw architectural blueprints.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Like, the final product is going to look beautiful and convincing from across the room, but the moment you try to build a house with it, the roof collapses because the underlying physics are entirely fabricated.
That hits the nail on the head.
Yeah.
Because we rely on this academic literature to establish global standards of care. If the visual evidence we use to train doctors and build medical knowledge is hallucinated, then the whole foundation of clinical practice crumbles.
Right. I mean, if you are a doctor reviewing a case study to prepare for a rare procedure, and the visual landmarks you're studying are AI-generated fakes, patient safety is directly on the line.
Absolutely. Bad data leads to dangerous treatments down the road.
So what do we even do about this?
Well, the medical community needs to catch up immediately. Journals can no longer rely on the naked eye. We desperately need standardized digital image verification mechanisms.
Like software to catch this stuff.
Yes, software specifically designed to catch AI manipulation before an article ever reaches peer review.
So I guess the big takeaway for you listening is that even our most rigorous, trusted institutions are vulnerable to the deceptive polish of AI-generated content.
Yeah. Expectation bias is a really powerful thing.
Especially when the fake looks exactly like what we want to see.
And, consider this. We only caught this fabrication because the AI made a really clumsy mistake with the text on a ruler.
Right, because it couldn't spell.
Yeah, but generative models are improving exponentially. When they stop making those obvious visual errors, how will we ever verify the visual evidence in the medical literature of tomorrow?
Wow, that is a fascinating question to leave you with.
11 days later, on April 29th, the journal completely retracted the paper.
They had to. The authors did release a statement, though. They admitted to using an AI tool.
What was their excuse?
They claimed they just wanted to move the ruler to the top of the image to make it look neater, and they explicitly said they were unaware of the journal's strict policies on image manipulation.
I have to strongly push back on that excuse. I mean, think about it from a common sense perspective. If you, as a listener, are sitting on a jury and you find out the detective used AI to artificially generate a ruler next to the murder weapon.
Oh, right.
You just can't trust the weapon anymore. If they used AI for the ruler, how do we know the black casts themselves weren't digitally multiplied?
Or reshaped.
Exactly. Were they made glossier just to look more dramatic and get accepted by a top journal?
And that is the core issue here. Research integrity. Once you introduce synthetic elements into a clinical photograph, you permanently break trust in the entire data set.
The whole thing is tainted.
Right. And this is actually a massive threat to patient safety. Doctors worldwide use these published clinical images as reference points for treating real people.
Wow, yeah, that is a huge point.
If a physician sees a patient with smoke inhalation, they might mentally reference that exact NEJM photo to gauge severity. If that baseline is exaggerated, it physically alters how real medicine is practiced.
Which honestly raises a huge red flag about the journal itself.
Yeah.
NEJM has one of the most rigorous peer review processes on the planet.
Yes, they do.
So how did multiple world-class editors look at a picture with literal alien numbers and just hit publish?
It exposes a massive gap in how peer review traditionally works. I mean, reviewers are laser-focused on the methodology.
Right, the data.
Exactly. They scrutinize the statistical data, the charts, the patient history. They aren't looking at a simple JPEG photo expecting a deepfake.
So what is the fix here? NEJM put out an editor's note reminding authors to disclose AI tools, but relying on the honor system seems incredibly naive now.
It's entirely reactive. Proactive screening is basically mandatory for academia now. Medical journals must urgently implement advanced digital image verification mechanisms.
So catching it before it even gets to a human.
Right. They have to integrate automated digital forensics into their submission portals to catch synthetic pixels early on.
Which gives this paper such a fascinating legacy. I mean, the authors will permanently have a giant red retracted watermark on their work. But I bet this becomes heavily cited moving forward.
Oh, for sure. But not for respiratory medicine.
No, not at all. As the premier cautionary tale of AI implementation gone wrong in academia.
Undoubtedly. It just proves that in modern science, seeing is no longer believing.
Leaving you with this thought to mull over. Right now, the medical community caught this because the AI generated squiggly numbers. But as these AI tools become completely seamless and those numbers become perfect, I mean, will medical journals soon require dedicated forensic digital teams just to verify a simple photograph?
We might actually already be at that point.
It is a whole new world for research. That wraps up our deep dive into the source material for today. Please remember to subscribe and share the channel, What the Study Says, so you never miss an update.
Thanks for joining us.